Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, How Thread Wallets Gains Actionable Insights with NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. I'm Rebecca Rowe, the Marketing Director here at Myers-Holum, and we're very excited to have Mitch Sanders, Chief Operating Officer at Thread Wallets with us here today, Knute Holum, Executive Vice President and Head of the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse Practice at MHI, and Priya Trivedi, a Principal Consultant at Myers-Holum. Priya actually works with Thread Wallets in implementing NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to you, Knute.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thanks everybody for joining us. Happy Tuesday. Just a quick review of the agenda. We've completed our introductions on our side. And after this agenda review, I'll turn it over to Mitch to tell you all a little bit about Thread Wallets, who they are and what they do. Then I'll spend a few minutes reviewing the basics of NetSuite Analytics Warehouse before Mitch and I then get into a discussion of what they're doing with it at Thread Wallets. Following that, Mitch will take you on a tour of their NetSuite Analytics Warehouse implementation and show you some of the cool analytics they've developed. And at the end, we've reserved time for Q&A. As Rebecca said, please feel free to drop questions into the Q&A chat as we go through, and we'll make every effort to answer all those. If we run out of time, we'll follow up by email. So with that, Mitch, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and Thread Wallets?
Of course. Thanks, Rebecca and Knute. So my name is Mitch Sanders. As we've said, I'm the COO at Thread Wallets. I've been there for about 4.5 years. My background is in entrepreneurship and working with small businesses with Thread Wallets. So Thread was founded in 2014 by power couple Mackenzie and Colby Bauer to bring an alternative option to the world of boring and bulky wallets. We offer a variety of different wallets, but we're beginning to branch out into other categories such as totes, crossbody bags, lanyards, and other accessories. We're actually in the middle of a rebrand from Thread Wallets to Thread. So that's exciting. We're headquartered in Provo, Utah. And we like to say we've grown exponentially over the past 7 years. We've been fortunate to enjoy that sort of growth and are enjoying every step of the way. It's exciting. It's been a fun couple of years for us and just about everybody else in the world. So it's been a ride, and it's been enjoyable the whole time. Back to you, Knute.
Great. Thanks, Mitch. We look forward to hearing more about what you're doing with NSAW in a few minutes. But before we get deeper into Thread Wallets, let me first set the stage with a quick overview. NSAW is an out-of-the-box data warehouse and business intelligence platform, and it's built specifically for NetSuite ERP. It bundles two long-standing Oracle technology platforms, Oracle Analytics Cloud, or OAC, which is the analytic delivery tool that you'll see in Mitch's demo, and Autonomous Data Warehouse, or ADW, which is the cloud database engine. It's the physical repository of your data warehouse. And both of these platforms have been around for quite a number of years. They have a large installed base of users and are highly scalable and high performance tools. So the NetSuite bundling of NSAW is leveraging two very powerful platforms that are truly enterprise class. So NSAW is a unified platform in that it's seamlessly integrated with the NetSuite ERP system out of the box. There's no customization, no setup work required to start using it. You just enable it. You enable the NSAW feature in your NetSuite instance, and the next day, there it is, you start using the pre-built content. It's very easy to use for non-technical business analysts and any other analytics consumers across your organization. It has a simple, intuitive drag and drop user interface, as you'll see when Mitch shows you the product. So very easy to use both for viewing the pre-built content that comes out of the box, as well as for building analytics from scratch. Now, a significant aspect of the out-of-the-box value is this very wide range of pre-built analytic content in the form of KPIs, dashboards of KPIs, reports, analyses, tabular reports, and other types of visualizations across a range of subject areas like sales and procurement and inventory, all the different analytic topics that you might want to dig into. You'll see some of this in Mitch's demo. Another key value of NSAW is the data pipeline that pulls data out of your NetSuite system is pre-built. This supports both all the standard NetSuite fields and records in your NetSuite ERP database, as well as any custom records segments, lists, custom fields that you may have configured in your NetSuite instance, so that all can be pulled into NSAW for analytic purposes. You can also very easily pull non-NetSuite data into NSAW and blend it with your NetSuite data using both pre-built connectors that come with NSAW or third-party data pipelining tools. So here's a summary of some of the common NSAW use cases we're seeing among our existing NSAW customers. Of course, out-of-the-box analytics provide a lot of value on day one, as I was just outlining. You can start using and customizing these really the day after you enable NSAW in your NetSuite instance. It'll be there and ready for you to start digging in. Legacy ERP, historical data is a powerful use case, which we've helped to implement for many of our larger, higher volume NSAW customers. For them, we've been able to pull many years of sales and procurement history and other historical transactional data from their legacy ERPs into NSAW and set it up so that it can be easily blended with ongoing data from NetSuite. So sales and procurement data blended with historical data of the same type of transactions, so that you can readily do historical trending that seamlessly combines NetSuite and historical data. Machine learning capabilities are built into NSAW, allowing you to create predictive models, do things like sales forecasting, inventory forecasting, demand planning, and so forth. Mitch will show you an example of what he's doing with machine learning at ThreadWallets as part of his demo. We're seeing a lot of demand for integrating third-party applications for e-commerce, warehouse management, 3PL, marketing, campaign platforms, and so forth. This can all be readily accomplished using a data pipelining tool or any data integration tool that you may want to bring to bear. At Myers-Holum, we've created a number of extensions to the underlying NSAW content. One of the most popular being a retail calendar extension to the basic fiscal and Gregorian calendars in NetSuite. So you can do if you're a retailer, do retail analytics on a typical 454 retail calendar, such as the one that's published by the National Retail Foundation. So now let's talk with Mitch a bit about how ThreadWallets is using NSAW. Mitch, what were some of the key business drivers at ThreadWallets in your evaluation of NSAW?
Yeah, there were a couple things. One, and you actually touched on a few of these points and features in introducing the product, but one of the big drivers for us was we needed something that we didn't need to do too many integrations with to pipe the data into the analytics warehouse. We've found in the past with prior solutions that the more integrations you bring in, the more complicated it gets, the more potential points of failure there are. And so obviously with us using NetSuite, NSAW was an attractive option for that reason. We've seen the last couple of years as well, it's been harder to forecast demand. And so we needed an analytics platform that would aid us with that. And there's a few things we'll look at in the demo that have helped, one being machine learning, and then just the fact that we're able to mold the platform to our specific needs can get that in front of our sales channel heads in order for them to better be able to forecast demand as well. And then you mentioned this, but it's a pretty intuitive software to use, to where many of our employees without a data analytics background can easily drag and drop and create their own visualization. So those are a few different things.
Great. Yeah, that's good to hear. So what would you say were your main goals going in to the NSAW initiative, and how did you decide to go with NetSuite and Myers-Holum specifically to meet those goals?
Yeah, so we wanted to increase accountability amongst our sales channel heads, like I spoke to a little bit there. We were finding it was hard for them to all get on the same page and understand, okay, what's my job? Where am I failing? Where am I performing well? How does that impact the next guy down the line? For example, how does our website affect our wholesale business, and that sort of thing, especially when it comes to demand and supply planning? So we wanted that, and for them to be able to be able to go in and look at the data and see kind of how they were tracking. And then we also wanted to use the machine learning algorithms to kind of improve our demand forecasting. That's what we've used it for so far, but there's a lot of different applications that we could use it for. We've only really scratched the surface there. And then as far as why Myers-Holum and why we went with this, was Myers-Holum came highly recommended from the NetSuite team that we've worked with, from our account rep. And we knew that Myers-Holum had taken part in some of the initial testing and launching. And then after just a few calls with, it was me, you, Knute, and then Priya here, we quickly caught on that this was going to be a priority for you. And we felt comfortable going forward with not only NSAW, but with also your team for implementation because of that.
Great. Well, thanks for the nice plug. Appreciate that, Mitch.
Of course.
So in leading into the demo, which we're very much looking forward to, I'm sure, how would you describe kind of at a high level what your most important analytic use cases are as of now, what you're doing with NSAW now?
Yeah, as of now, some of the most important things we've built out are these monthly sales dashboards that we'll look at. And these help our, I already explained this a little bit, but help our sales channel heads improve and see how they're performing. So for example, we'll look at this and we have by rep, what's the forecast for John Doe for the month of May? What's he need to be hitting? Okay, of that, how much of the elastic wallet does he need to be selling to hit his goals? That sort of thing. So it helps us come away with different action items. We use the machine learning algorithms as an extra data point in our demand planning to, pull in and reference and see, okay, what type of things are we missing from our, what trends are we missing in the data that we might just not be aware of or might be slipping past? That helps us kind of cover our bases there. Those are a few things, and we'll look at those in depth. I'm excited to show everybody.
Okay, great. And maybe last question before the demo, what were the business benefits that you were expecting up front from the NSAW initiative, and what have you discovered any other benefits that you didn't anticipate?
Yeah, we definitely wanted more accountability amongst our whole organization. I've said that multiple times already. We wanted more adoption of data, of using data to drive decision making. We have a pretty young company and a lot of people who aren't quite used to that, and just they're not used to having it at their fingertips per se. So we wanted to give it to them so that they could just grab hold of it and be looking at that and manipulating the data whenever they wanted. And so that was big. Just the other day, I went up to our marketing team, up to their offices, and I was ecstatic to see them with their dashboards set up on their computers. And these are people who beforehand for better or worse, weren't really using much of the data that we had. So that was a great improvement. To be quite honest, hadn't expected the adoption to be so quick, and for this solution, this software, to quickly become a part of, I guess you could say, the culture of Thread, which has been good. Some unanticipated benefits. I, at least initially, wasn't aware of how easily we could manipulate the data flows to what we needed, and then augment data with multiple sources. So we obviously had our NetSuite data that was pulled in with those pre-built connections, but then we connected to Google Drive documents. So using Google Sheets to add in projections where we need it. These are just things that we need a little bit more flexibility on, and it's a little bit easier for our team to go in and update their projections in there as opposed to somewhere else. Yeah, those are a few unanticipated benefits and benefits we've had. And I really feel like we're kind of just scratching the surface on what we can do.
Great. It's great to hear. Well, let's cut to the chase. Let's take a look at Mitch's demo of NSAW. And then after that, we'll cycle back with some Q&A.
All right, so here is our instance of NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. Gave you a little bit of a demo here of the different features and then how we're using it, some specific use cases. So this is the home screen. Here on the navigation, we have a couple of options. So I'm going to show decks, projects, a little bit of the data tab, and we'll talk about KPIs. So essentially, KPIs are at-a-glance metrics that you're able to set up, and then you're able to view those in a deck. So one deck that we use with a couple of KPIs is shown here. So there's a lot of different options for KPIs. These are just a very few number of them. We're looking at purchase orders by vendor, open customer invoices, sales order revenue by partner. So these are sales reps that we have, and then shipments in a geo map. So these are quick and easy. They're very helpful if you just want to show certain members of your team just at a glance, very simple data, so that they're not having to go through and sort through different things. So that's one great use. I'll show the data tab real quick, because the data tab is what we use to form our projects, to create those. Essentially, here it is. We have a bunch of different data sets. Now, the first data sets that we work with are the NetSuite data sets that come in. These are, we can look at a few here: sales order data, invoice data. These CSV files are custom ones that we have created, but that's all of your NetSuite data that's going to be ingested. And then you're able to augment that with, we have some CSV uploads. We have some data that's pulled from a Google Drive integration. And there's much more that we don't even use. And then we won't go into this, but data flows here are where you're able to kind of make edits to that data so that the data is flowing through correctly into your workbooks and how you want to use it. So now we'll get into the workbooks and how we use them. This first one that I'm showing is taking advantage of just one of the machine learning algorithms in NSAW. So this one that we're looking at here is ETS, which is a seasonally adjusted forecast. So what we do here is we'll run this before we do any of our buying, and we'll take this forecast here and plug it into, or combine it, better said, with other forecasts that we're using. So this gives us one more data point to use as we're doing our buying. So this is a big value add that NSAW has had for us, just being able to kind of look at the the data without too much human bias. That's what this gives us. This is another one. This is using a Sarima model. Again, just one more data point for us to ingest and look at and then use to inform our buying decisions. We also use workbooks to analyze which designs and collections of ours are selling best. So we have a couple different collections each year. And it's good for us to look at, given just over a certain period of time, which ones are selling the best. And then among a certain collection here, you can see spring and summer 2022 for us, which designs are selling the best. And then overall, among all collections, which designs are selling the best. And this helps inform our product team, our marketing team, so that they're able to make the best decisions on their end. Our product team can come in and our design team can see, okay, well, Loon and Blossom, those are our two florals. Maybe we should design more florals for fall 2022, or et cetera. So it's an easy way for them to just look at the data. And then on the other side of the coin, this is not quite as fun as design, but we have built out dashboards for each one of our sales channels. So I'll show you two. This is wholesale, and I'll show you retail one here later. That's owned retail of ours. But what we've done is we're bringing in some data sets from NetSuite and combining those with a few data sets that we're pulling in from this Google Drive integration and comparing our sales versus our forecasted sales amongst a couple of different categories. So we're looking at forecasted sales versus net sales for each individual rep on this graph here. And then we are looking at invoice versus projected by product type. And this helps us in our monthly sales and operations meetings to identify which reps are underperforming, which reps are overperforming when it comes to what they forecasted, and then how we can kind of shrink the difference between actual sales and forecasted sales. And that's big for us because if people are underselling, obviously we're not capturing all the revenue we can. But if they're overselling, we're then running into inventory issues. So we try to be within a certain percentage, how close those are together. And it's the same thing with sales by product type. So being able to come in here and view live data is key for a couple different departments: marketing, operations, sales, even our product team. So this is a dashboard that gets utilized quite a bit for us. And we're able to track throughout the month, where are we with our projected sales? It's very similar here in our retail dashboard, only that instead of forecasting by rep, we're forecasting by location. So we've got a couple of different locations that we sell out of, and our retail team has provided forecasts. We're tracking against those forecasts. And then, like I said, in these meetings, we're seeing, okay, where did we perform well? Where did we underperform? And then action items are created. So all of this data serves to inform us and to help us create action plans for improvement so that our channels are, one, hitting their potential, but then also so that we're in step and in sync across all departments within the company. Because if our marketing team is not in sync with our operations team, then we're going to have inventory issues. If the finance team isn't in the loop, then it's difficult to project cash flow and that sort of thing. So the data is very helpful. What's most important is what's done with the data, and that's kind of outside. You get the data here, and then we're creating processes and meetings. But without the data, it would be very, very hard for us to create these plans. So anyway, those are a few examples and use cases of how we use NSAW, and it's really helped us a lot. It's helped us refine our processes quite a bit. So I'll hand it on over back to Knute then for our Q&A.
That's great. Thanks, Mitch. I can tell you've already done a lot to unlock the value in your data. So moving on to the Q&A portion. Rebecca, have you gotten any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do have a few. The first one is for Mitch. And I guess you talked a little bit about just scratching the surface of what you can do with NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. What are your plans for the future for NSAW?
Yeah, I really do feel like we are just scratching the surface. We're continuing to meet with each department within the company to identify different use cases and data that they need. That's really one thing that I learned quickly here is this isn't just for operations. It's not just for marketing. It's for finance. It's for the product team. It's for the design team. So people that aren't even used to using all that much data, it can be used with just about everybody. So we're continuing to do that, kind of search out internally what we need to do or what's needed that we're not addressing at this point, I guess. And then we're also working with the Myers-Holum team here on a Google Analytics connection so that we can start bringing in more website data into NSAW. So that'll help us. We can look at, that unlocks a lot more that we can look at with, just anything that happens on a website, conversion rates, our sessions, which pages are driving the most traffic, that sort of thing. So that's going to be really interesting for our e-commerce team. And there's even more that we can get into that I'm sure I'm not even thinking of.
That's excellent. It sounds like a great, it'll be pretty exciting to see all the developments. What kind of, here's another question maybe for you, Knute. What kind of tools can you use to load external data into NetSuite Analytics Warehouse?
Sure. Yeah, there are several ways to load external data and combine it with your NetSuite data. Obviously, Mitch showed us some examples of how they're pulling in Google Sheets. You can basically just drag and drop a spreadsheet or a flat file into NSAW. Makes it very easy to load planning and forecasting data or sell-through data for selling partners, for example. Any kind of spreadsheet or CSV data sources, probably the easiest thing to do. You can also create custom data sets within the OAC user interface that Mitch showed you. There are about 35 or so built-in connectors in NSAW, so you can pull data from, for example, Salesforce, Google Analytics, various on-premise and cloud-based databases like Snowflake, MySQL, Azure, SQL Server, Google BigQuery, many others. And then for data sources that are not supported by these built-in connectors, you can use any SQL-based data integration tool set that you want to load data directly into the NSAW database layer, the autonomous data warehouse, which basically looks like an Oracle database. So all that requires is a SQL-based tool, a data integration tool that can connect to an Oracle database using what's called a cloud wallet, which is a zip file that combines the connection parameters and authentication parameters to connect to your database. So there's a lot of tools that do that, but we've been working extensively with a third-party cloud-based data integration vendor called Nexla to do this. They have hundreds of pre-built connectors, REST API, and other types of connections to other cloud apps like Shopify, HubSpot, Amazon, Facebook, Klaviyo, a lot of WMSs and 3PLs and so forth. So a very rich and robust set of connectivity options from Nexla. But as I said, any third-party data integration tool that can write to an Oracle database with a cloud wallet you can use to pull data. What's next?
We have another question that just came in. Does the solution connect with NetSuite Financials for reporting purposes, or do the two systems stand alone and require different data connections?
Oh, they definitely work together. You don't have to have a separate data upload or data connection. The built-in data pipeline, NSAW data pipeline that I told you about up front, connects directly to the NetSuite database, pulls data automatically into the separate NSAW database. So there's no separate uploads or connections or anything that are needed for your NSAW reporting and analytics. That's all out of the box. This also, by the way, has the benefit that data in NSAW is transformed when it's loaded into the NSAW database so that it's optimized for reporting and analytics. Obviously, in the NetSuite system, it's optimized for transaction processing, which is a very different way of organizing your data. So being optimized for analytics makes sure that your queries and reports run as fast as possible. And also, they don't compete for system resources with your NetSuite ERP system.
Okay, we have another one. Our inventory balances, detail, et cetera, exposed in analytics. This has presented a challenge for us.
Yeah, and that is a common challenge that our NetSuite ERP clients have told us about. Yes, there are many subject areas in NetSuite out of the box with inventory data, all pre-built in NSAW, including, of course, item receipts and fulfillments, and then inventory counts, adjustments, inventory cost revaluations, inventory worksheets. There's also a what's called an inventory item location quantity subject area, which is probably the most important and commonly used for doing inventory analytics. It has on hand and available and back ordered and committed and in transit and on order quantities, all by item and location. So obviously a lot you can do with that. There's also an inventory snapshot subject area, which is a big gap as far as how to do that on the NetSuite ERP side. This provides daily snapshotting of on-hand quantities so that you can basically analyze and monitor changes over time in inventory levels based on a daily snapshot.
Excellent. I think we have time for 2 more questions. We have one that came in, and that is NetSuite Analytics Warehouse HIPAA compliant? She says that our healthcare practice management software stores our data in-house on a server, not in the cloud. Would we be able to integrate our data with our NetSuite data in NSAW?
That's a very good question, and probably one that would be better to follow up by email, because there's a lot to HIPAA compliance. I know the underlying OAC and ADW platforms are HIPAA certified, but I'm not. Since we don't work for Oracle or Oracle NetSuite. We can't really make those representations. So I think we should probably bounce that one over to the Oracle side and follow up by email specifically on HIPAA compliance.
Excellent, we'll do that. Then, is there a limit to data pipelines? What types of data can be received?
There's no limit at all. I mean, basically the database layer, Autonomous Data Warehouse, is completely open and extensible. You can add any number of custom schemas, custom tables. The tables can have whatever columns and data types that you want to pull data in from, whether it's another cloud application data source or an on-premise application, or really any other database that you want to replicate into NSAW to make it easy to combine with NetSuite data. So it is completely open and extensible.
Excellent. We have a few more questions, but let's save those for responding via email, just so we don't go over too much. And I want to thank you, you all. Thank you, Mitch and Knute and Priya, for joining us today. And thank you to the audience for your so many great questions and for attending. I really appreciate it, and we all really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Mitch. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye.